It is October 6th. It's a Saturday. It's 2018. And today on the podcast, we're going to be talking Raw, Smackdown, the build to WWE's SuperShowdown out in Australia. In fact, I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but I will have some words to say on it eventually. In comics, we're looking at my favorite creator of all time. He's returned to the pages in Batman, Maxx, Arkham Dreams. Sam Keith has returned. So stick around, because this is not life with Adam S. Messinger.
If you're reading Saga or crying from the Muir, he'll deliver a sunset flip, so hold secure. He's got comic books and wrestling all night. This is not live with Adam Messinger. Adam S. Messinger.
Welcome to episode 38 of This Is Not Life with me, Adam S. Messinger. We're going to kick off the comics with a review of Batman and the Maxx, Arkham Dreams, number 1. I've been so excited for this book ever since they announced it. The Maxx is my favorite comic series of all time. Sam Keith is my favorite creator of all time. So to see these two things come back for the first time in like 20 years, yeah, I've been stoked ever since they announced it. This was my most anticipated comic of the year. That being said, we'll see if it lived up to expectations. So, the pencils and inks are all Sam Keith. In the past, he had started to kind of get in on some of the colors of his stuff, but it looks like he's left it up to Rhonda Pattinson, who has colored a bunch. She colored the Maxx Maximized when it came out. We're introduced to the Outback, and there's a lot of reintroduction to the concepts of the Maxx, and it takes kind of the basic things and puts them in Gotham and puts Batman in them. So we start out in the Outback. Maxx doesn't know where he is and why the Outback is looking the way it is, and the art in this book is fucking amazing. Like, this is Sam Keith doing some of the best work of his career. I could not believe it whenever I was looking at this stuff. I was like, yes, this is why you're my favorite creator. And it's so wonderful to see him drawing new Outback stuff and new Maxx stuff. So we see the Maxx in line at a homeless shelter, just going off and going crazy. And the police officer's like, yeah, you're under arrest, bro. And Batman's there, and he's like, I'm interested. I want to see what's going to happen. And this ends up with the most overreactive punishment of all time, where this sends Maxx into Arkham. And Batman's there, and they even kind of acknowledge, like, so this is a little extreme, right? And they're like, yeah. It turns out there's a doctor there examining people in their sleep and in their dreams and all that. And so he wants to examine the Maxx, especially with all the talk of the Outback. And it turns out Batman winds up in the Outback with the Maxx. We find out there's a character named the Purple Queen, who is not Julie. We'd known her as the Jungle Queen. And right as we're introduced to her, we see this crazy fucking dream scientist dude hook up the Penguin to this same dream machine thing that they're using to analyze dreams. And then right about that time we see that, we go into the Outback, and Batman and Maxx look like they're about to be eaten by one of the coolest things I've ever seen Sam Keith draw, which is like a flying blowfish piranha thing. I love a lot of the concepts in this book. I love the covers. my big I feel like the big flaw in this book is a lot of the dialogue. Batman's dialogue is not very Batman-ish. It reads kind of like the 1966 Batman, and he is the eyes of the reader who doesn't know what's going on, and it's a little too obvious. He's a little more generic onlooker than he is Batman the detective. And the Maxx is, well, he's very much the Maxx. And I loved that about it. But I feel like he was kind of stripped down to his most base form, like, oh, this is the first little bit of the Maxx that we see in the cartoon that was on MTV, and then the first 10 to 12 issues of the Maxx series. Of course, I go into this and I'm like thinking of all the mythology behind it, where the characters left off at the end of the series. I think I went in with my expectations pretty high, and I probably should not have, just because this is not a sequel to the Maxx. This is a tale in and of itself that happens to have the Maxx in it from earlier on. So, with that being said, I would recommend picking it up, checking it out for yourself. It's $5, so it's kind of a steep price. I think they're going to do 5 issues or 6 issues. And as I said, the art's worth the price of admission, but the dialogue makes it a little bit hard to read. But again, I loved a lot of the concepts in it. It introduced a lot of cool stuff. I'm interested to see who the Purple Queen is. I want to have hypotheses about that and stuff, but I don't. Especially since this is Maxx, clearly the Maxx from Julie's Outback from the main series. And she's the only one that's been known to live in that Outback. So I'm curious as to what's going on with the Purple Queen. Is she somebody from Batman's world that has invaded Julie's Outback? And are we even going to see Julie at all? So yeah, there's a lot of questions there. I would probably give this a on the rating scale, I'd give it probably a 3.5, 4. Yeah, I'll go 4. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Go pick it up at your local comic shop. It's available on Comixology. There's a ton of different variant covers if you're into that sort of thing. I personally wanted all the Sam Keith covers, even though I don't collect variant covers, but it's Sam Keith, so I did. And my lovely girlfriend was kind enough to pick me up the Torpedo Comics variant that Sam Keith did, and they even had a signed copy, and I got one signed, one not signed. So that's where you can grab it. Stick around. We've got some fun wrestling talk with Raw and Smackdown, and then we've also got a sponsor to hear from. This is Not Life, listeners. I don't know about you, but sometimes I wish my toilet experience was a little more interactive. I'm sitting there. I mean, I got my phone. I can read. I can play solitaire on it. But what if the entire toilet experience became a VR game? I'm talking fully immersive, a whole 3D area around you, interacting with you so you don't have to shit in a boring, plain old toilet. What if you can make shitting fun? And that's what John's Port does for you. In the game of John's Port, it takes you from an average, regular, boring shit to a full-on 5, 10, 20-minute adventure. If that's what you choose, you can pick the time on it. It is a choose-your-own adventure game, and you can do it all from the sitting position. And you pick where you sit. You may be shitting in real life, but in that game, you were sitting in the most important seat of your fucking life. where you take a character and you choose a variety of scenarios that include saving the planet, shooting aliens, and winning the girl or guy or animal of your dreams. Port of John can be purchased at portof.john for just $17,999. That's a hell of a deal if you ask me. So go to portof.john.com and clean up your shit and turn it into something fun. Did you watch wrestling this week? I sure did. Things happened. Did I enjoy it all? Not all. I enjoyed most of it. With Raw, this past Monday, they kicked it off with an Ambrose interview, and then Baron Corbin comes out and he sets up 3 different matches with The Shield and Dogs of War, and they're all singles matches. And the first show of the night was Dean Ambrose versus Braun Strowman. It was a decent match. Braun Strowman came out and pretty much destroyed Dean Ambrose until Roman Reigns came out for the save. Then it went straight into Roman Reigns versus Dolph Ziggler, and this was so dumb. Roman Reigns went to put the title on the line, and Baron Corbin's like, nope, I get to choose when the title's on the line and when it's not. And it's like, wouldn't you want him to lose the title and stuff? The match was okay. It ended with a spear and a pin. You had Ronda Rousey versus Ruby Riott. It was a decent match. They had me at different points believing in some of the near falls that, we might have Ronda's first legitimate threat to her title. But yeah, it didn't quite come off as big as it should have. And part of that is just there's no competition, it feels like, for Ronda. And I was hoping that they might try to build that up with Ruby, and it was a decent match. I enjoyed it, but all it was just a filler match building up for the 3-on-3 pay-per-view, or the 3-on-3 match at Super Showdown. You had Bobby Roode with Chad Gable versus Connor and Victor of the Ascension. Roode is beat by Connor, which is 2 weeks in a row that we have Connor winning for no fucking reason. They're trying to progress this story with Roode and Gable about basically, do they have each other's backs? Do they work well together? And why are they losing against Connor? And it's going to create, I believe it's going to create some dissension, and you're going to get heel Bobby Roode versus face Chad Gable. This didn't really do anything to add to that story for me. It was just whatever. Then you had a moment of bliss with Alexa Bliss. I rolled my eyes as she gave a promo about Trish Stratus snubbing her and treating her like a jerk when she was a kid. There was the B-Team versus the Revival. I was stoked for this match. I love the B-Team. I think they're fun to watch and they're great. But the match didn't go very long, and then you had AOP come out and hit the Super Collider on the B-Team after the B-Team had won. So it was like, what's the point of them winning and trying to gain momentum if they're going to be immediately squashed out by the fucking AOP? They did a segment with Dean Ambrose talking to Roman Reigns, and they're trying to be like, where's your head at, Dean? And they did one with him and Rollins earlier in the night. And each one ended with him saying, with Rollins, it was, I could be Intercontinental Champion right now. And with Roman, he ended it with, I could be Universal Champ right now. And then they had Strowman give a pep speech to the Dogs of War, and he was like, there should be no weak links, and he's clearly looking at Dolph Ziggler. Then we had Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. That match was really good. It was probably my favorite match on the show. You had McIntyre get the win after Rollins was distracted by Ziggler, and he got to eat a Claymore. Eventually, you had all three members of each team come out, and it was a schmoz. And it was still fun to watch. I'm excited for Super Showdown, that match on it, and to see how that's going to play out, and if they're going to have Dean turn on the Shield in Australia and all that. After that, we had a segment with Kevin Owens and Elias where they got nuclear heat as the crowd booed and booed and booed. I'd never heard them boo so much. Holy shit. I was really surprised at how much heat they got over a comment Elias made about their former basketball team. And they just got, those two got shit all over by the crowd. And that was pretty cool. I don't like Elias particularly, and I didn't think Kevin Owens' mic work was super exceptional. But the segment itself, it was just fun to see a crowd actually hate someone because they're bad guys. Unfortunately, you just don't see that much anymore. This led into a match with Kevin Owens versus Bobby Lashley. Lio Rush was about to get powerbombed by... Or no, he was about to... No, he was put into a full Nelson by Elias. And this distracted Bobby Roode and allowed Kevin Owens to get the roll-up. You had Bayley with Finn Balor versus Alicia Fox with Jinder Mahal and Smeal Singh. This was the epitome of a filler match. I could not have given a shit less about it. I pretty much napped through that match. The main event was a promo segment with Shawn Michaels talking about how he's going to be in Triple H's corner and Triple H is going to beat The Undertaker. And he, tells Kane, if you get into our business, I will hit you with sweet chin music. And this prompts Kane to come out. And then Undertaker comes out immediately after. And they get into it with HBK. And then Triple H comes out for the save. Then there's choke slams all around. And fucking Triple H eats a tombstone by The Undertaker. That finish makes me think we might get a Triple H victory. So I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. On the not Dave Meltzer scale, I would give this episode canned tuna. It's good. You're about to put it on a sandwich and that'll make it better. But it's decent out of the can. And so... yeah, this show was decent overall, but this pay-per-view is about to come up, and this didn't really help build it. Next up, we have Smackdown. AJ Styles had a promo segment where he was like, I'm with my family, I'm not on Smackdown, because fuck Samoa Joe after last week. Paige was like, I'm going to fire fucking Samoa Joe, but I couldn't because AJ wanted to beat the fuck out of him. So that happened. And then you had R-Truth and Carmella take on Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega in a mixed tag match. It was a decent tag match. You had Truth and Carmella come out on top. Carmella hit the Code of Silence on Zelina Vega for the tap-out victory. I love that finisher. I think it's great. I think they could have done a better way of getting into it, but it was an okay match for what it was. It didn't change lives. It didn't make me cry, but it didn't make me overjoyed to be a wrestling fan. It just was. The next segment was Ty Dillinger asking Paige for a match with Randy Orton since Randy Orton beat the ever-living fuck out of him last week. Paige was kind of like, I don't know. And then Dillinger's like, I need it. And that's the first time we've taken Tye Dillinger seriously, probably since he's come to the main roster. So hopefully, I was hoping this was going to build some credibility with him later down the road to have him actually be a competitor. New Day came out after that, and they had a cooking segment that went awry because the bar came out and fucked everything up. They put pancake batter into Mr. Bootiesworth's hat and humiliated Mr. Bootiesworth. Mr. Bootiesworth looked like he was about to laugh this whole segment. And it made me wonder if Mr. Bootiesworth was like another writer or like an assistant backstage, or what does he do? But yeah, he looked like he was ready to crack up the entire time. We get Randy Orton coming out to actually have the match with Tye Dillinger, and they just fucking brawl. There's no match to be had. They brawl. You think that Tye Dillinger's getting the better of Randy Orton, and then Randy Orton gets him on the barrier and hits a draping DDT. Then he pulls off the cable to the turnbuckle. It goes between turnbuckle and the ring post of the bottom post, and then sticks Tye Dillinger's finger in it and proceeds to try to break it, which was interesting. I really liked how they're trying to get creative with Randy Orton and how he can decimate people in different ways and torture people and all that. You had a follow-up to last week's Rusev and Lana story. They confront Aiden English. Aiden English has some bullshit video set in Milwaukee where he's in his hotel room and he's warming up for his Rusev Day song, and then Lana comes in and says some shit and like, "I want you," and then stops. Obviously, she's going to say, "I want you at ringside with Rusev," or something like that, to where he's manipulated the video. Rusev is not smart enough to figure this out, even though I have. Hopefully that changes soon, because if not, that makes Rusev one of the dumbest baby faces on the roster. The next match we had was the best match on Smackdown. Of course, when you hear it, you're just going to be like, of course, yeah, it makes sense. It's Daniel Bryan versus Shelton Benjamin. Benjamin pulled out the win here. I did not see that coming. It was off of The Miz's distraction. Daniel Bryan went to hit the running knee and actually got hit by Shelton Benjamin's finish out of nowhere. And it was a really well done match. I enjoyed it a lot. And I'd like to see Shelton Benjamin do more. I've always been a big fan of his. So I'd love to see him come to the main roster. Well, he's on the main roster. But to come into the title picture for like the US title. Or have him, a bigger player on the show. As I said, I really enjoy his work. The next match was awful. It was Asuka with Naomi versus Peyton Royce with Billie Kay. I wished that I didn't know that match existed, and it's a shame that they've treated Asuka the way they have. The main event was just like Raw. This was another promo segment. We had Becky Lynch being fucking awesome, showing the new Super Showdown poster with her standing over Charlotte, holding her title, and no other people on it. I can't wait for them to face off at this pay-per-view. It's going to be awesome. And hopefully they can live up to the hype. This has been one of the best rivalries on the roster, and Becky Lynch's promo here, where she talked about how she is the reason the women's division is relevant on SmackDown. She is doing the best. She has the best potential in the entire company and should be the face of WWE. I agree wholeheartedly. Get behind her. Stop trying to force her as a heel and Charlotte as a babyface, because the crowd clearly booed Charlotte and cheered Becky just like I do in my heart. So, yes, that was a great segment. If you get a chance, go watch it. Overall, on the not Dave Meltzer scale, I would give Smackdown the Rob Morrow Nirvana episode of Saturday Night Live. That's how I'm rating it. It had some really good moments, and it had some good moments, and it had some not so good moments. Just like that episode of SNL. that brings us to the end of our show. I miss you. I'm going to see you next Friday. I'm going to give you hugs. One that says goodbye and one that says hello next week. I'd like to thank Kevin, our new editor, for his work and service. I'd like to thank Dandelion Massacre for their lovely theme song. Go to dandelionmassacre.com. I'd like to thank Dan Faughdner, who did our lovely graphics. Follow me on all the social medias, at Adam S. Messinger. I'm always posting fun stuff on the Twitters. Come talk to me. We can talk comics. We can talk wrestling. If you think I'm full of shit, I dare you to tell me I'm full of shit. If you think I'm right about something, I'm an attention whore, so I will definitely take positive reinforcement. I will see you all next Friday. Bye.